Welcome to episode 417 of the Red Dirt Agronomy Podcast. I am Dave Deacon, and have we got a great episode for you. If you raise wheat, you know what an adventure it has been. From droughts to floods, hail to high winds causing heads to shatter, Mother Nature has given this crop everything she could. So, how did the Oklahoma wheat crop fare this year? You just might be surprised. This week, we're talking with Oklahoma State University Extension Small Grain Specialist Dr. Amanda Silva about the resilience of Oklahoma wheat. We'll get to our chat with her in just a minute, but before we do, if you're new to the Red Dirt Agronomy Podcast, I would like to welcome you and invite you to hit that follow button where you get your podcasts. Also, you can find resources about everything we talk about on this episode and past episodes on our website, reddirtagronomy.com. So be sure and hop over there and check it out. Now, let's kick off this episode that we recorded just last Thursday, July 10th, 2025, with a quick trip around the table for an introduction to the dream team of dirt and everything that grows from it. Let's start with Oklahoma State University Extension Precision Nutrient Management Specialist.
Maybe it's our management, right? I mean, if you look at how we manage our wheat now and our grain-only management now versus the 80s, can you really even say it's almost the same anymore? I mean, the same crop, the way we look at wheat now versus 1990.
Dr. Brian Arnell. Next to him is Oklahoma State University Extension Cropping System Specialist.
This is just agronomy things, man.
Dr. Josh Lofton. And actually, while we're on the subject of Dr. Lofton, we're kicking off this episode with a big announcement he has for sorghum growers across Oklahoma. So without further ado, let's kick it off by saying those magic words. You are listening to the Red Dirt Agronomy Podcast.
Yeah, so we're going to have an event. I mean, if you want to think of it very similar to what you would think of as a traditional variety tour, we're gonna meet up at Tacoma. We're gonna have a variety plot up there, but as opposed to kind of what we would normally do, we're going to have a lot of this event be a lot more hands-on.
Yeah,
and I think that's the big draw up there, and hopefully this is working towards something bigger in the years to come. But we're intentionally have stuff out there to encourage folks to come and attend and get their hands dirty, because we're going to go out there. We're going to look through some of the sorghum with a little bit more detail. We're going to look through one of Brian's got one of his project demonstrations out there, and we're going to actually go through and kind of break some plants apart and see how I do believe it's your burn study.
It's the burn study.
In-season fertilizer burn study. We're going to go through and we're going to take some measurements and some readings and look through some of that. We also have a couple of folks that are going to come through, going to talk about sorghum as a forage, and we're going to walk through some forage quality analysis. We're going to go through and look at how we test nitrates and how that can be done in the field or kind of in the extension office, as well as talking a little bit about if we send samples down into the lab, how that kind of works, and how at least some of the research of the last couple of years have shown the impact our management can have on nitrates. So when growers are trying to make those decisions when it comes to what we're going to do or what they're going to do to their crop and potentially want to graze it on the back end of the season, we hopefully will have some answers. So where this kind of differs from more traditional variety tours is, like I said, we're hoping that it gets that hands-on approach, right, where we're not going to be on trailers, we're not going to stand on the turn row, as long as it's not completely underwater,
rained out.
We're going to get out into the fields and we're going to break some plants down, talk a little bit about scouting, talk a little bit about the varieties, and we're going to actually get out there. That way, if growers want to come, we can get a little bit more hands-on. If I always say, like, land managers, so private industry consultants want to get out and want to learn how to scout some of their crops and kind of get across the fields and get a little bit more hands-on, then this is the event to come to this year. So going to be a great trip. It's just north of Tacoma, right, at Jay Leeper's going to be our host. and Katie Hiddle is going to be the extension educator that's hosting us up there. So we got the good support from the grower and the educator up there. You can kind of go to our website if we actually have a website for this event. So if you go to our website, can kind of get signed up for the event, or if you want to call the Woods County Extension Office, they can get your name down as coming to the event. Gonna start kind of in the morning, so we're gonna take a little bit longer with this, and then we're gonna end it with lunch before we take a break. So plan to be out there for a little bit of time in the morning, and that's gonna be July 29th.
Yes.
Like I said, just north of Tacoma. We'll have directions there, and the website does have directions. So July 29th, we'll be there from breakfast to lunch, if you will. So be there the whole good time.
Sign up begins about 8:30 or so, and then, in the field shortly thereafter. And then, of course, like you say, the lunch, and everybody can find that information at sorghumoklahoma.com, or we have a link to it on our website, reddirtagronomy.com. And this is a great partnership, like you say, for sorghum organizations to come together and really get those boots in the crop and hands on the sorghum plants and learn.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of like we've talked about all spring, it's a good looking crop. We've got some good pictures from the field, and we've been out there, visited several times. So it's a good looking crop. Looking at variety performance, looking at we're potentially looking at a big headworm year that we can go through, and we can look at a great look at how our crop can respond to in-season fertilizer management, and kind of can go hand in hand. So a good field view of some of the things we've been talking about at some of our sorghum events. Great cooperation between Oklahoma State Extension, the Woods County Extension Office, and then the Oklahoma sorghum growers and Oklahoma Sorghum Checkoff.
Yeah, and so again, that's coming up just here in a couple of weeks. July 29th, and we look forward to seeing everybody out there. And that's you can find more information sorghumoklahoma.com, and we'll have a link to it at reddirtagronomy.com. So Josh, where are we with summer crops right now?
Dave, they're in the ground.
Well, which is an accomplishment this year.
It really was.
Yes.
And to be quite honest, I say that it's in the ground. Not all of it is yet. We probably, some of our full, and I think we talked about it the last time we were talking. Some of our full season, so that stuff that was planted in April and May, some of it looks really good. Some of it does not look really good.
Yeah.
Corn looks great. I think if you got corn planted on time, it looks fantastic. And I mean, talked to a lot of growers, talked to a lot of educators. We had our educator event here in Stillwater just this last week, and it's like, when do we normally get this much rain? End of June, 1st of July. And so a lot of the corn, especially the real early corn, I don't want to jinx us quite yet, but we might have made the crop with the rain we have. We've gotten good profiles heading into July, and so a lot of the crop is progressed to blister, to soft dough, or to milk, to soft dough maybe. And so we're getting towards the end of this season, and I mean, if you look at the calendar, we're not too far off August. So
our entire Southwest district's probably about ready to harvest. I mean, they're made. I should put it that
they're
way.
made.
They're made, and there's some grain sorghum down there north side of Lugert Altus Lake. That's 130 roadside estimate, 130, 140 bushel solid clean stands on some beautiful grain sorghum down there. So early in the Southwest, if they got it in.
Early stuff. If you rolled the dice, which, I mean, based on how the spring was, you rolled the dice because it has made it through quite a bit of really not really great conditions for growth, but it has come out the opposite side, very, very beneficial. Nice cool season. We were looking at photos of Brian's crew and some of their cotton plots. A month ago that cotton looked awful, and it has really caught on with the moisture underneath it, and we finally gotten some hot days.
In 10 days at Fort Cobb, we went through from a a crop that was fairly short internodes to we almost missed our first application of PGRs because it blew up probably 12 inches. Internodes went too long and we're applying today. And that was 8 days difference between we were short to we grew significant. Our internode length just went crazy.
So, I mean, if you look at the prediction, they've talked about how we will continue a rainy trend through July. If that actually does come true, whether we believe the meteorologist or not, if that actually comes true with the heat we're getting now, as long as we don't go, on the high end of the heat, our heat has been great.
Yeah.
I mean, these mid-90s are great for growing crops. And so as long as we keep going that route, we have the potential to do really good on some of our early stuff. Our late stuff is going in. It's slow. I've talked to a lot of growers, and they've said that some of them, it's the latest they've ever started putting in double crops. But they are rolling the dice again because we normally don't have this kind of moisture this time of year. So, the wheat came off. The wheat's looking pretty good. They have good residue, good moisture. They got weeds under control, so they're like, why not? Let's roll the dice. So we are getting kind of towards that period to where I get a little cautious with especially some of our soybean and sorghum. If we don't freeze till Thanksgiving, it's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
If we freeze in October, we're setting ourselves up for potentially some very negatives on that, but I mean we don't know that right now. So we have good moisture, which we don't normally have July 4th. Well, we haven't had in several years.
Right.
So it's one of those things that if they've made good wheat crop, why not?
One thing I was really, taken aback by whenever we had the discussion about in Chickasha about Southwest Oklahoma crops maybe moving from cotton to corn. That didn't seem right in my little mind. And this year, I'm curious how that actually shook out for those producers that did go corn. And I mean, because they had the moisture this year in parts of that area, and it was cooler temperatures.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at a lot of folks that are really going to shell some beautiful corn from all the corn that I've seen from southwest of Altus up north through that region. It's gorgeous. I mean, we're really the number of acres. Tyson Auctioneer's dad has a little bit of corn and was talking about that he had already called out early. He had planned his custom harvester to come in because nobody has row headers down there, right?
Yeah.
He had planned on and planted and called the guy. That one guy who has a corn header down around Walters and Cookie Town went from having a couple hundred acres to he's now got 6,000 acres or 5,000 acres of corn that he's got to get to or something like that. So it's a big number, and he actually told Tyson that if you find somebody else to get there earlier, you could do that, but they're scrambling in the entire region to find corn headers.
Yeah.
That's some of the educators down southwest have said that their growers have been talking to dealers to push to Nebraska to try to rent a corn header for a couple of weeks. We've seen some folks get smaller corn headers than their combine is allowing for, and just to get it in, but they're making. They have the I don't want to say they're making. They have the chance to make really outstanding yields, and so if they pulled off a good wheat crop, they're going to pull off a good corn crop. Then we have the chance to have some really satisfied growers this year, which is good because we haven't been satisfied, especially in the Southwest. In years,
and they need to get it in early because a lot of the I states are looking at exceptional. I've heard a couple of reports out of the I states that Illinois is 75 or 80% exceptional.
Yeah.
And so
they got a long way to go still.
They do have a long way to go. So we're not looking at great corn prices right now. So we do need, we've got some stuff in Stillwater where around that Lake Carl Blackwell, my record yield in 20 years of being on that ground is about 250. If you just do ears, we've measured, just count some ears. We're 2 ears per plant on our maximum management, and each ear is fully filled out, and they're 44 tall by 18 round, which if you use the estimates, that's somewhere around 320 bushel estimate.
Wow.
And Brent Bala, which is up around Ponca, we've got some on-farm stuff with him. All of our nitrogen stuff was shooting for 180 bushel yield goal. It's yellow.
Far exceeded
that.
that.
We're long yellow. We're probably looking at 220, 250 at minimum, all dry land. And so
it's not all positive.
Yep.
I mean, the cotton is still very weak.
Right.
The cotton next to my corn is dead. So we'll just put it that way.
There's some soybean, especially that got put in a little late. That is just it's been cloudy, it's been wet, and it has been cooler. And the soybean just kind of needs. It doesn't want a lot of heat, but it needs a little heat. That unfortunately, its growth pattern. We're starting to go reproductive on some fairly small plants, so we're not going to have the growth that we probably need to hit top end. Just hopefully we're getting growers with yield that is going to come out positive. And again, that's something we haven't had in several years.
So growers in Southwest Oklahoma, I'm just specifically, this could be an anomaly year. Should they look at future corn crops with caution, or go all in on future years?
Dave, if I knew the answer to that, I would be able to make a lot of money. Well, I mean that. The thing of it is, talking to Radin, unfortunately he couldn't be here today, but talking to Radin, corn has a spot.
Yeah.
I mean, Southwest can get in a little bit earlier. So they can take advantage of some of those March and April rains and some cooler temperatures. So I don't want to say that we can probably sell out this much to corn in the future, but there's a good chance that it's got a spot down there, especially with growers maybe looking to rotate out of cotton every couple of years.
Right.
So I think it's got a spot. I think it and Milo both have a spot down there. I don't think it's going to take over,
right?
But it's definitely got a spot that can be of value to growers down there, especially when cotton markets are down and corn markets might be up. When it's not this year, but in those years it might have a spot for growers to be able to throw in things early if we get a nice, cool, wet spring to have some options. So I don't think growers need to sell all their cotton equipment to go and get row headers,
right.
But maybe get good friends with the folks that do. Maybe keep the contact of the people you're renting a row header from this year, because you might need it in the future.
Well, that's cool. So that's the summer crops, and we've had winter crops. Combines have been working their way through slowly. I have a friend up by Billings that's still cutting, and here we are. The first third of July, and they're still cutting because it's been too wet in areas. And Amanda, where have we been overall with the wheat crop in Oklahoma?
Oh, we've been all over the place, honestly. Yeah, usually we do, especially with the variety trials, we can do a very good harvest timing, starting in Southwest and moving north, ending in the Panhandle. And this year we were like, whatever is dry, we'll go and cut.
Right.
And so we were from Southwest to Panhandle back to North Central. So it was really messy. And we still have wheat in North Central
really?
That we need to cut. Yeah. By Kildare,
Ponca
okay. City. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We just got more rain past 2 days or something. So
where was Tyler
on the weekend,
going yesterday?
Yeah.
Was he going to Kildare, but he got rained out at Kildare?
We got rain on the weekend, that 4th of July weekend. So yeah, he showed me. We have tracks there. We couldn't we couldn't get in the field. Yeah, in the wheat there, the weeds now are taking over. So I think we'll be able to get it. Hopefully on Friday, we'll see if it dries a little bit. But yeah, it started, I would say, at least 2 weeks later than what we usually do. By Memorial Day, we have Southwest already, that Memorial Day weekend already cutting, and that was not the case this year. I would say we started 2 weeks behind, and there was a week that we kind of tried to catch up, and we made a lot of progress, but then we got more rain, and it's being like fighting mud, and Fortunately, test weight in some cases was holding up well. Like if you look at the Oklahoma Wheat Commission reports, it's holding up well, even though we had a lot of rain. But in some cases, if you look in the variety trials data, you can see that the wheat was just sitting there for very long. So it was ready and sitting there for a couple weeks, and you can see that dropping test weight.
This is something that comes up pretty often. Can you describe what is the process with the wheat crop standing and the test weight going down?
I think it's just that quality of that grain, that moisture. I'm not sure what is the chemical, actually. I'm not sure what is the chemical reaction that happens in the grain, but we just see that,
the shrinkage of
that
the
shrinkage,
berries.
We cut a wheat plot that seemed like it stayed at soft dough forever.
Yeah.
It seemed like for months it was always at soft dough. And I went in thinking that the test weight was going to be pretty low because I'm like, if it stays at soft dough for so long, then it's going to dry really fast and we're going to get some and it didn't. So it's kind of odd what has low test weight and what doesn't have low test weight.
Yeah, it's something that will affect that density of the particles in the grain, but I don't know exactly what is the chemical reaction that will trigger that.
Yeah, well, because
it's probably the wetting and drying cycle, because we're not in, so it's wetting and drying, so you're probably having a breakdown of
breaking particles or something.
You know, in drought years, you get it because it just shrinks so fast, so rapidly, and that's kind of not what we had this year. And so it's a little bit different.
It is, and actually, as we were looking at it, we thought, well, those wheat that's been sitting here, maybe some wheat sat there for 2 weeks, the grain was fine. So, and I think that's why we look at the overall in the state, it's fine. But in some particular cases,
because
we had issues.
The rain that came has not been, at least especially the beginning half of the summer, early June, the rain that came was not gentle. It's not like it misted for 3 days. It came down at 4-inch chunks at a time.
Yeah.
And so where it got rain, they got storms and hail and wind and stuff like that. It's just not everywhere that.
And that's something we saw in Cherokee.
Yeah.
When we went there to cut, we could see a lot of shattering. So we had a lot of storms, like wind storms coming up and close to those fields. And we even got ratings on that. We had 40% shattering in the plots.
Have you been able to take some good notes on like stalk strength and stuff this year, or have we had that much lodging compared to shatter?
I think, shatter we had, especially in this location. We didn't really have in other locations. At Walters, we thought maybe we had some hailstorm, but it wasn't very clear. It's like we had a lot of things that happened in Walters, so it was hard.
We always have things happen in Walters. I don't care what it is. Walters is
that plot. It's just tough. Yeah, it was tough for that region there. We got lodging ratings, so I think it's like a blend. But we didn't get any shattering in other locations. It was more clear in Cherokee that we were more affected on that.
Have you seen? I'm assuming with the crop growth this year, Josh, the way we had such a dry fall and our spring was such a low grower, and we had so little biomass production throughout the spring until it rained, I would expect that our lodging statewide, unless under irrigation, was probably minimal.
Yeah, that's right. We weren't
unless it
very
stands
tall.
forever. I mean,
we weren't very tall in many cases.
I mean, we do have lodging at EFAL under that double crop, but it's been ready for 45 days, I think. I don't know.
Might have been ready since last year.
I'm
I
surprised
don't
we
know.
don't have a full crop in the heads right now. So we probably lost 10, 15 bushel, I think, around Caldwell. I'm going to assume that we had some pretty significant, because we had great crop up there going into heading and grain fill, and then we get up there and the combines are rolling 30, 40 bushel when I was really expecting. And that Caldwell region can cut 80
and were you able to see
well.
the grain?
I wasn't there, and so we've got the notes I need to start digging into. But my assumption is that based upon the crop that we had going into harvest, by the time we actually made it up there, because they kept getting rains. Josh would text me once a week. Well, your wheat at Caldwell's getting hammered.
No, it's just terrible. Yeah,
that state line, it took a beating this year.
Yeah. And one thing that we saw, like if the guys go to the Cherokee data, the highest shattering that we'll see are usually on the earliest varieties. So the ones that were sitting there ready for longer time. So we had an experiment there that is very early. actually has that short season pattern. So then we saw more issues there with shattering. 40%. That's what we rated.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so I know it kind of brought up a good one and a challenge, and it's good to kind of look at it on hindsight's 2020 kind of aspect. Weeds have been a big question.
Yeah.
But Brian, I know you dealt with this down at Perkins to where your main stems were ready, but you had a significant amount of tillers that were still really green. Yep. So looking back, if you could go back 2 months ago and make those new recommendations, what should we have done with some of those green tillers that would have helped us maybe get into the field a little bit earlier? Because I know there was some dry ground, but the wheat was still really high moisture.
I'll let Amanda, I'll speak to our case. So this was the TAPS trial, actually. I do a head count, and I had larger heads in the tillers than I had in the main. I think the tillers made my crop in that. It was a very late planted into dry, marginal stand. And so for this crop, it was best to let those secondary tillering come up and mature, because it was a good secondary tiller crop. And so waiting on that, because we had to actually cut Perkins 2 weeks prior to Tyler coming in. My other trials had. And so we'd been out of the field, but checking on that, there was just too much good wheat in those heads. But we've had years where that secondary tiller is more of a nuisance because it's not putting on grain.
Yeah. In general, we don't wait for those secondary tillers.
So, but if they're green, high moisture, what would you do with it?
Oh, it depends. It depends how much you have. If it's just a few of them, you just go through it.
You just cut a little high.
And exactly right. You can cut above those heads. In most cases, they're shorter tillers, so I can take a high crop. Or if you're running, if you're running a stripper header, that's ideal, because you can get that stripper header through and it has no impact.
It depends on the crop, like what Brian just described. That's a good idea. But in our case, in most cases, we do have good main tillers, so we don't want to let the crop sit there and get a risk of getting some storm and hail and something late in the season. So case by case.
Summer crop guy, you talk about sorghum and all that. that's where we pull out desiccation. Is that ever something that wheat growers should or even do think about? I know that several years ago we ran into a thing to where the public got a hold of glyphosate being used as a desiccant and really had a negative twist to that. And so maybe they, from a PR perspective, we don't want to go that route, but is there other things that we can use? Or
I guess there could be maybe spraying a few weeks. And actually, I think we did that in some of our locations. I need to double check with Tyler if it was Kingfisher. I can't remember now which location, but we may have.
And some of that we need to desiccate the weeds just to have, especially on the research side, we need to desiccate the weeds because our plot combines, as you well know, Josh, our plot combines don't have the same screening ability as a large deer or agco or something. So we have to sometimes get that, but we do have harvest intervals that we pay very close attention to. And make sure that's the case. And there's times on research, and you well know, we do things sometimes that are the results is a destructive grain harvest. So even protocols call for that if we're testing new products. And so, at least for the research side, we can do something and just make sure that grain does not enter the marketplace.
Over the years, there's been a focus on early varieties, late varieties. It sounds like we're really seeing the result of that, where one variety matures a little bit faster and is ready, say, closer to the early parts of June, but then another the crop right next to it might be one that's ready in July. This year it may not, in my opinion, it may not have been beneficial for that, having an early variety versus a late variety versus whatever, where one may have had to stand in the field a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, this year was complicated because we really didn't have a break on the rain. Yeah, I do think that it is a good strategy to have different maturity patterns, so you can actually spread this type of risk. Maybe one will get caught by the windstorm.
Right.
It's very mature, but
Yeah.
if you had a late one, could escape that.
Yeah.
The same thing for freeze,
Yeah.
for late spring freeze. This year was just...
I mean, again, it speaks to having a diverse portfolio of
Oh, yeah.
cropping, not just cropping systems, Josh, but a variety and maturity date out there is that we do have that diversity so that one bad event doesn't wipe out the entire system.
And sometimes even not because it's planned, but just because of logistics, planting date gets also separated. And so it's actually... It can be a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
So it's another way to spread that risk as well.
So, Amanda, as you've been diving through, you don't have all the data, but you've been diving through the variety trial data. Has anything jumped out of you? Any take-homes from this year's trials yet?
Well, we can see how tough it was for Southwest.
Yeah.
And we could see that in the year, especially because they were way more advanced when we started receiving the rains.
Mm-hmm.
And so that northern part of the state had more time to catch up with the rain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we saw good yields as we expected, especially as the year started. If the guys go and look at Lahoma, you can see differences with the standard and intensive management. So that's very interesting. You had, I don't know, we had more than 20 bushel, I think almost 30 bushel difference between both treatments.
Yeah.
And that is a combination of fungicide and nitrogen.
Sure.
However, looking at the crop in Lahoma, we really didn't have a lot of fungal diseases except for maybe some of those leaf spotters. We saw that in some cases in the state, and maybe fungicide helped with that. But I wonder if nitrogen was the big player this year. We can't separate here, but maybe from your trials you can tell us if... in a high intensive scenario. And we saw that in farmers' fields as well. So some farmers that were on a more intensive side yielded 80, 90 bushel, were able to yield that as well.
We definitely saw, and if you look at our trials, that the nitrogen made, even in our TAPS trial, looked like the nitrogen applied in February, where it looked like that was right the timing. We had more value of a March. So anybody that delayed and put on a majority, the pre-plant didn't seem to do much of anything, probably just the environment. A March application did really good in that. So that more intensive management did. We didn't see anything. We in our TAPS that you and I are part of, we looked at fungicide. Fungicide had no influence on that. And interestingly enough, at our TAPS, it was a November 10th planted trial, right? So we did about November 10th in no-till, had okay moisture, but it went dry pretty quickly. One of our base managements was 125 million seeds per acre versus 875,000. So high and low pop, right? I would have always seen, this is stuff that you've been sharing that it's just been blowing my mind. I would have said by November, I better be at 1.25 million, if not 1.5, like really pushing that, going from 60 pounds. I want to be 120 pounds of seeds per acre at that point. There was zero difference in those two populations across showdown, and really, if we look at all the varieties, we didn't see a difference or need. There was contestants that did 1.5 million seeds. There were others that did 1 million or less, and the population really didn't matter.
It's interesting, and that it's making me think, and we might put a trial on that now. Are we then too high in October? If 870,000 seeds per acre is enough for a late planted, are we too high then when we put that? And that's kind of the average of what everybody does when they plant on a 60 pounds per acre. So
60 pounds is about 875,000.
It depends on the seed size, but for... When we calculated that, it was like for Gallagher, for the most planted varieties in the state. Now we might just need to recalculate a little bit for a double stop. But it's around there. So 900,000 seeds per acre. So it's something that we might need to look at.
Obviously, they ran those trials before. I mean, there's a reason why we did the bushel and a half, 2 bushel, that increase was there. Originally, is this a change in varieties, change in management? Are we moving our planting date back enough that we aren't, generally seen the value. I mean, obviously it was, unless we're calling out Jeff Edwards here. I'd say,
actually,
it was
could
before Edwards. It would have been.
I think it was before Edwards. And that's the thing. By that time, did we have 50 varieties available for farmers?
Yeah.
With all this ability to tiller differently?
I mean, is that kind of what we're seeing, that genetic kind of flex a little bit?
There is a very high genetic component in there. And so with the ability of the wheat to compensate for space. So now it could be way more prolific. Okay, I see space. I'm going to put more productive tillers. I don't know. It could be. So it's something that we might need to test with older varieties and newer varieties. What is it that maybe it made them make this recommendation decades ago that we still follow?
Maybe it's our management, right? I mean, if you look at how we manage our wheat now, and this isn't we're not talking dual purpose. We're talking grain only.
Yeah.
Right? Our grain only management now versus the 80s, can you really even say it's almost the same anymore? I mean, the same crop, the way we look at wheat now versus 1990.
I just go back to, what we did in soybean a couple years ago. And, Chad Gotze, I was a part of that as a student when he was doing rate trials. And so, we did the same rate trials that we did with Chad when I was a student, and he did good trials. He had a data, and we found that we don't need as much as we found with Chad. So, it was definitely hanging our hat either on management or shifting our planting dates around, or the genetic potential we have just allows for us to get by with a little bit less that we don't need as much.
I'm excited. So this last year, I haven't had very many winter wheat trials out. We were kind of in other areas. So 25, 26, we're going to hit winter wheat hard. One of the things I'm going to do, and I'm going to work with Amanda, is really start looking at this planting timing, the influence of other aspects. So does the addition of a starter or an in-furrow DAP have more or less value in a September, October, or November planting as we change soil temperatures, as we change rooting structure and all that? So we're going to have quite a few trials stretched across the state where we'll have planting date and maybe we drop in population. I mean, you've been doing a ton right now. We got Abiola's work and other work, so you're doing a lot of planting timing. Yeah,
we'd have planting time, seeding rate, not only on a plot scale, but also on a farm scale. And actually, I was just talking to Tyler over the phone yesterday of the results, but I haven't really looked at it. But we have a farmer near Ponca City also who planted for us strips, large strips, so we need to analyze that. And I think on average there he yielded about 100 bushel in some plots there, and it doesn't seem like we've really had an effect of seeding rate. I think we had 5 seeding rates there. We have another trial on farm study at Rendell, so it's
who are you with on Ponca?
Schneithman.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah.
So that'd be really good. Was that underwater, irrigated, or dry land?
Dry land. We were supposed to get another planting date there, but we really, at planting, we couldn't get that. So I think we only got one planting date.
I'd have to look. I'll look it up. I know there were some amazing winter wheat yields underwater, too. So Matt was sending me notes talking about what he got, I think 120 bushel or 130 bushel average on 2 circles.
Yeah. Well, maybe I need to check because I thought it was dry land, but maybe I need to check with him.
I'm not saying it wasn't. There was some really good, but I know Matt was texting me. He wanted to know if he could win the NUE of the year. And because he had 160 pounds down and averaged a pivot average was 130 on 2 different pivots.
Oh, wow.
Now, admittedly, he took these pivots over for somebody that had been shooting for high yield corn for a long time, and so he acknowledged that.
Don't need to know that background,
but he took advantage of it, and just to pull, 130 bushel off of wheat in Oklahoma, it's not something we didn't talk about that 10 years ago.
That's crazy. The potential is there, and we have some varieties that can reach that if we manage.
So we talked about changing in varieties and how variety genetic potential is maybe helping us along on that. Is it is it we're getting more out of that primary tiller, the secondary tiller, or are we getting head size better? Are we stacking the head better? I mean, I know, Brian, whenever you came down and saw my old PhD advisor in Louisiana, they were amazed with just the head size of that wheat down there is what really carried us. We didn't get a whole lot of tillers or a whole lot of value, but it just the primary head size was gigantic compared to Oklahoma. So where in these years that we're getting these really impressive yields, where's it coming from?
It is coming from overall grain number. So it's not coming from bigger grains. So more grains either per head, it's just more grains per unit area. And I think we have some flexibility there, either coming from more tillers or bigger head size.
But there's not just one dominant trait
not that I know
through.
Of, especially with 50 varieties. So from the ones that we've seen, from the
only
ones that
50,
only 50. I mean,
no, it's a good question because they will reach that yield in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing, for example, that we saw with seeding rate, it was coming from you would increase seeding rate, but you would reduce the the head size by increasing seeding rate. So you're
just getting more heads out there,
maybe more heads, and so it's kind of compensating, and then that's why you don't see a response in yield because you have more of them, but they're smaller. And so I think it's hard to tell. Okay, this is the dominant right now, especially with all the varieties that we have available. But I think there is some flexibility there in each situation. Like maybe if that variety has more space, it will put more tillers. That same variety could have a bigger head or could have more tillers, I think.
Well, yeah, because I mean, you think about that, and even from that would probably greatly help a breeder's progress on saying that environment. Our wheat varieties that can do this are really flexing in these environments, but it also, again, we have always talked primary heads. But are those tillers really, especially that primary and secondary tiller, is it coming through that we need to think about that in management, or is it still primary head?
Yeah, I think it depends how the year is making. Like, for example, this year it was a lot of tiller abortion, right? Because we had drought at the time that the tillers are forming. And so we really want to manage to keep that head size up, kind of. But maybe if we have a good fall, if we have a good early spring, then we have to think about, okay, I want to manage for the secondary tillers because they have the potential to also have a good head size. They're not just coming later because my primary kind of has less resources and it's kind of, small. And so plants can put more resources on the secondary. Not sure if I'm being confused.
Oh, no.
But
that's my job. I'm the confusing one.
In my mind, it's very clear, but I don't know if I can make that clear. It's just, but yeah, I think it's all about that flexibility of the newer varieties to adjust to environmental conditions and us to be attentive to what it is and manage for either one or the other.
Well, and so I know you're doing a lot on breaking those yield components down and looking at, have you looked at the quality difference between, like a primary head versus tillers? Does it change that much? Do we see a drastic drop in pro test weights and all that when we kind of move those dominant heads around, or are we pretty consistent?
Good question. And we actually have a study that we separated main tillers with secondary tillers, and we applied N15 on that. So I will be able to see that soon. We are still analyzing that data.
TBD.
Yeah. And we have 1 year of data on that already. And so basically the idea for that is to look at the use of nitrogen for main stem and the secondary tillers. So that's how we separated the plants. And then we're going to look at the distribution of nitrogen, protein in the grain. And I don't know if we can get test weight at this point, because it's a very small sample size, but we can look at all other components.
So if you were to sum up,
this is just an agronomy thing, man.
that you move beyond agronomy. That's physiology.
That's part of agronomy.
You've gone the next level.
If you were to sum up the 25 wheat crop, how would you do that? I mean, Would this just
Muddy.
be like the asterisk year?
Muddy.
You know, you just set it aside and let's move on to the next one, or
I mean, I think it ended up being better than we thought.
Yeah.
Like starting in the fall, early in the spring, like by April, it was really tough.
yeah,
Right? So with the rain we had now, it's really messy to get it out of the field. But especially in some locations, I think we did better than expected. And we can see that in that farmers challenge that we ran during the plot tour.
Yeah.
So I asked farmers to give me their thoughts on what they thought the yield was going to be, what they thought the top yielding variety was going to be. And you can see that some people were more optimistic at that point because we were starting to get rain.
right.
But before that, if you talk to them, we weren't that hopeful.
Yeah.
And so, and some of them got really, really close and almost spot on with what the actual yield was.
That's cool.
In the plots.
Dave, I think if you look back at our last 15 years, everyone is an asterisk year.
Yes.
I don't think we can
You're
say.
right. Yeah.
You could have asked that in 24. Do we put an asterisk? Yes.
Yeah.
What about
I thought about that when he first asked. I was like, it seems
All
like
of them
since when
are.
I got here, every year there is something.
Yeah.
Like there is
It's
always,
always something.
Yeah.
I blame both of you.
I sit back, and even this year, this year has been a very odd year. But I sit back and I'm like, I've seen this year before. I
Yeah.
didn't see the exact year. We didn't see as many 4-inch rainfalls, and we didn't see this, but I've seen this same pattern before, which is why you just can't asterisk a year, because it's like all of them are good at we're going to see this year again.
Yeah.
And again, it might not come in consecutive 4-inch rains, but it might be misty all of May, and it's
Yeah.
the same amount of rain. We just get it a little bit differently.
Right.
And so one thing I've learned in my going on 11 years back is that you can't asterisk any of these years, because we're going to see
We do
these
learn
years
something.
again.
Yeah, that's true.
And I go back to, I do believe it was, and I have trouble now figuring out what year.
They
And
blend
some of the
together.
growers that have been growing for 30 years can probably do several years that are like this. But I go back to 17, and it's like, I remember the frustration that me as a summer crop guy had getting crops in,
Yeah.
and it's the same as this
Yeah.
year. The rainfall came a little bit different, but it's the same challenge as we did in 17. So it's like, I've seen this year before. So
Yeah.
learn what you can, and
Yeah.
then when
Yeah.
we see it again, your spidey senses are going to tingle, and you're going to be like, what did I learn in 2025 again that I can, and it's going to be too long, and you're going to forget everything.
So as we move from spidey senses to wrap up here, Amanda, where can we go to find your variety data?
It's on the wheat website, so wheat.okstate.edu. It's all posted there. They can find the tables for each location and little footnote with if we had anything to say about that location, we put in that footnote of the tables.
And Dave, one thing, we never move away from spidey senses. You never move away. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, you can find a link to the data on our website. We'll put a link on there at reddirtagronomy.com. And is there an illustration of Josh in a Spider-Man suit?
There will be. Chat can do that.
The world is not ready for that.
I think you're right. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you for listening in on this conversation of the Red Dirt Agronomy Podcast. And if you'd like to join the next discussion, leave us a message on our website, reddirtagronomy.com. Or you can always send us a tweet. Our handle is reddirtag. We'd like to thank Dr. Amanda Silva for joining us on this episode of the podcast. And again, if you get a chance, visit our website, reddirtagronomy.com, to find out more information about our guests and any of the resources that we discussed today on the podcast or previous episodes. For Dr. Josh Lofton and Dr. Brian Arnell, I am Dave Deacon, and we all want to thank you for listening. The proceeding is a copyrighted recording of Agnow Media, LLC 2025. And yes, all rights are reserved.